The beginning of the movie, we are introduced to a woman named Heron who goes out for a run in the early hours of the morning. During her workout, she reaches a specific spot and begins digging up some stones, finding a pack of cigarettes and a lighter hidden underneath them for her to use. Heron lights one of the cigarettes right there. Then, we discover that Heron works as a teacher at a school where she gives religious education to her students. In addition, she is married to a man named Gerald, who is a devout priest. Gerald's life is deeply rooted in faith, which leads Heron to teach religion classes at the educational institution. Heron and Gerald are the parents of a boy named Florence, and Gerald wants his son to also embrace a life of faith similar to his own. Her daily routine involves taking Florence to church every morning, ensuring her son is not exposed to the world in the way other people often are. This religious devotion of Gerald's creates discontent in Heron, who believes that Florence should enjoy the freedom to choose his own path. However, Heron feels unable to express her feelings to Gerald, who exercises strict control over his family. This situation is frustrating for Heron, and it drives her to smoke in secret. That is how she spends her days. One day, the school principal mentions to Heron a new student named Drake, who has joined the class during the school year. Drake comes from Germany and has moved in with his grandfather, who insisted that he enroll in the school so he would not lose the year. The principal places him in the same class as Florence. During a lesson, while talking to Drake, Heron realizes that he is completely apathetic toward the existence of God. At his former school, there was a religion course he disliked intensely, which left him with a negative impression of faith. Later, while Heron drives at night, she encounters Drake on the road smoking a cigarette. She decides not to say anything, simply bringing her vehicle to a stop and remaining lost in deep thought. She takes Drake to the place where she used to smoke, and there they both begin to share a cigarette. During their conversation, Drake suddenly kisses her, but Heron warns him not to do it again. Upon hearing this, Drake walks away. When Heron arrives home, she cannot stop thinking about him. The next morning, after going out for a run and returning home, she discovers that Drake has arrived to help Florence with a chemistry project. Using that as a pretext, Drake tries to get closer to Heron. While she is in the kitchen, he comes up behind her and tries to kiss her, prompting Heron to shove him away hard. As a result, he ends up injuring his lip and starts bleeding a little. Realizing what has happened, Heron cleans him up and then accompanies him to his house, urging him not to behave that way again. However, Drake ignores her warnings and begins to caress her, awakening a feeling of pleasure in Heron. At that moment, a car passes by them, which allows Heron to compose herself and control her emotions. Next day, Heron skips church to avoid confession. When Gerald asks why, she replies that she has nothing to confess. Afterward, Heron and Gerald head out to have lunch with her parents. At that gathering, Heron's mother begins to remember her childhood, revealing that she had always been a little rebellious. She recalls an episode in which she caught Heron having relations with her chemistry teacher in the bathroom. Upon hearing this, Heron feels offended and decides to leave. On the way back home, Heron switches her phone with Florence's and contacts Drake. Once he receives her message and arrives at the agreed location, Heron takes him to a mountainous area where they both begin to get intimate in the car, enjoying the experience. After this encounter, she returns home and gives the phone back to Florence, claiming that she had taken it by accident. Florence mentions she has a Find My Phone app that tracked Heron to the mountains. In response, Heron insists that she never left her car that night, attempting to hide the truth about where she was during those missing hours. To justify her absence, Heron claims that she was with a friend. When Gerald asks a friend to fix the car, Heron fears that he may discover the truth about where she was. Therefore, the next morning, she approaches her friend and asks her to lie to Gerald, saying that they spent the night together. His friend, who knows all about the situation with Drake, cannot deceive Gerald because he is a priest and sees right through her transparent lie. When she finds out what happened, Heron runs to look for Drake and warns him that Gerald already knows about his visit to the mountains last night, and that from that moment on, they will not see each other again. After school, Heron watches Drake take Florence somewhere. When he fails to return home, Heron begins to grow restless. Gerald also attempts to reach Florence, but he does not receive any response from her at all. Unable to bear the tension, Heron goes to Drake's house and discovers that there is a party, where she finds Florence drinking and wandering in the street. Upon witnessing this, Heron understands that Drake has manipulated the situation, which enrages her. Drake explains to her that he did everything for love, since they are in love. However, Heron replies that the night they spent together was a mistake, and that their relationship has come to an end. He takes Florence and starts leading her away, urging her to lie to Gerald and say she'd been out celebrating with a group of her friends. The following day, as Heron is in the middle of teaching, Drake sends her a picture of himself with Heron's underwear clenched between his teeth. When Heron refuses to react and tries to carry on with the lesson, Drake escalates the situation and attempts to display the image to everyone else in the classroom. Alarmed, Heron grabs her phone and rushes out of the classroom. Noticing that Heron is visibly tense, the principal approaches her. Heron lies to him, falsely claiming that Drake behaved inappropriately toward her while they were inside the classroom. After leaving the school, she receives an audio message from Drake, in which he confesses that he has fallen in love with a beautiful girl, but that she is older and is leaving him. Later, during dinner with her family, Heron receives a message from Drake, who invites her to his house. When she sees it, she lies by saying that she is going to see a friend, but in reality she heads to Drake's house, where she tries to explain to him that what happened was only one night, and that there is nothing between them. However, Drake insists that he wants intimacy, and when she refuses, he begins to pressure her. With effort, Heron manages to free herself and get away from him. Next morning, she notices that Florence is acting strangely, as if he knows what has happened between her and Drake. At school, the principal asks her to come to his office, where he questions her about what kind of relationship she has with Drake. The reason is that Drake posted a photo on social media, and in it, he can be seen with a pair of her underwear hanging from his mouth, making the whole situation look deeply compromising and humiliating. Seeing this, Heron defends herself, stating that that garment is not hers and discrediting Drake as a liar. No one knows about Drake's past, and the principal does not tolerate the offense, so he decides to send Heron to rest for health reasons. When she tries to talk to Florence, he refuses. Later, Heron receives a call from Gerald, and the two head toward the mountains with the police, since Drake has expressed his intention to commit suicide and wants to speak with Heron and Gerald in private. Upon learning this, the officers follow them. Heron and Drake manage to avoid Gerald. At that moment, Drake asks Heron to kneel and ask Gerald to accept what happened in order to help him save his life. Heron confesses everything to Gerald, revealing that they did have a relationship and that Drake is telling the truth. This revelation notably worsens Gerald's condition, causing the doctors to come to the place to assist him. After hearing Heron's confession, Drake declares his love to her and takes his own life by jumping off a cliff. In the next scene, we see Heron in an isolated room where she begins a video call with Florence, who does not seem very willing to talk much. After that, Gerald gently closes the door to Heron's room, which signals the final moments of the film. I would really love to hear your own thoughts and opinions on how you felt about this story, so please leave them in the comments below. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.